Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. I am Brad, joined by,
Kyle.
and we will be your co hosts this evening for our second version of our mock draft. Welcome to the Jocks of All Trades podcast.
Jocks of all trades. Jocks of all trades.
Cool. So I'm super pumped, Kyle. We have not done a real like you and me mock since the Panthers trade. So this is all new territory. Let's go ahead and kick it off with a bang. Kyle, who in the world do you have going to the Panthers at 1?
For the Panthers, for their number 1 pick, I have them taking C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State. These quarterbacks are different flavors, man. Do you want Anthony Richardson, who's the freakiest of freaks, who has the highest ceiling, terribly low floor? Do you want Bryce Young, who probably doesn't check all the boxes in terms of his size, his length, his frame? Or do you want Will Levis, who's a little bit best of both worlds with his athletic talent, and also playing with 2 NFL offensive coordinators in his career at Kentucky? But C.J. Stroud, I think, is a flavor that Frank Reich wants. He's built the right way in terms of his body, his mind, very accurate as well, put up a lot of good stats, played well against Georgia. That's a big thing. I just think the Panthers want someone like CJ, them going after Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst. They just signed Adam Thielen. They're getting weapons ready for their QB. I believe it's CJ Stroud. Definitely could be wrong, but that's my pick. CJ to the Panthers.
What's crazy is Kyle and I do not know each other's picks. So this makes it even more fun when I get to agree with Kyle. If any of you saw my mock draft on Twitter a couple weeks ago, I really thought the Panthers were going to move up and do something stupid like go for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. But I've kind of come back on that. I think CJ Stroud is kind of that perfect pocket passer that Frank Reich likes. And I think that's going to be his flavor that he wants to bring in to this Panthers organization and offense. So I'm right there with you, Kyle. I think he's going to take the prototypical, I can just stand there and pass kind of guy. I think that's what he wanted in Carson Wentz. I think that's what he wanted in Matt Ryan, and he just couldn't get, and Phillip Rivers, and he just couldn't get it. And I think getting a younger guy that you can kind of teach to do a little more, not saying any of those guys are terrible, but just saying somebody you can mold a little bit more into your offense is perfect. And I think it's going to be CJ Stroud.
Yeah, perfect. I'm in total agreement with that one. Texans. Yes, yeah. Texans at number 2. I have the Texans taking Bryce Young at number 2. Again, different flavor. What do you want? I think Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this draft. Size question. We know all that stuff, but Texans want their guy. Texans want the guy. I think Bryce Young is the guy of the guys of the guy in this draft. I think he's a leader. I think he is tough. I think he has some magic to him. I don't love the Texans cast, especially since they just got rid of Brandon Cooks, but we know they got Dalton Schultz. We know they got Devin Singletary added, and they have some more moves to make. But I like Bryce Young in this fit here, and I think these quarterbacks, the biggest thing is where do they fit the best? I think Stroud fits the best with the Panthers, and I think Bryce Young fits the best with the Texans.
So this is where we're going to disagree. I think they should take a swing for the fences in Anthony Richardson. Yes, I agree with you. Bryce is the guy. Bryce is that leader. Bryce is the kind of guy you can bring in to start a whole new culture with. Or you could take the sexy guy in terms of how he did in the combine and hope that you swung and hit another Deshaun Watson. I know that's kind of outdated and sounds really terrible now, but at the time, Deshaun Watson was the guy. And I think they need another the guy. And Anthony Richardson really could fit that bill if he gets into the right place. Now, my argument here is for actually DeMeco Ryans, because he's so defensive minded in the way that he's been and the way that he played, etc. He's going to build a really good defense to protect Anthony Richardson. And in addition to that, they've signed Singletary. They've went out and they got a tight end. They went and got Schultz for him. I think he's going to be really comfortable with the Texans organization. And I think you can afford to swing on that guy that you could miss on. But if you hit, you hit. And I think Anthony Richardson would fit really well with the Texans.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say Anthony Richardson here. I thought maybe you would have went with Will Levis because I think the Texans are that kind of franchise that would probably do something Will Levis-y. Anthony Richardson here, I like it. I don't love it just because I think this is a really big swing for the fences for the Texans. And my gosh, they need to get it right. I mean, they really do. And they could with Richardson. They could, but they really need to get it right. In terms of like selling stuff, of course. Like, yeah. You put Richardson on the Texans field, people are going to like go to the stadium to watch him. They're going to buy his jersey. They're going to go crazy. It's going to be electric to watch him. But as in terms of a franchise, man, you need to hit like that. Like you need to hit right now. And I don't know if Richardson is a guy that you'll hit on right away. He's very boom or bust. I'm hoping he's boom because he might be. Texans really need to hit here, man.
Yeah.
I hope it's Bryce Young, but who knows? It could be AR-15.
They could. This could be the Brandon Weeden pick for the Houston Texans franchise. It could.
Gosh.
You never know. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a risky pick, but I feel like if you're going to take a risk on a guy where the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
That brings us to the Cardinals. Kyle, what were you thinking with the Cards here?
The Cardinals are going to go best defensive player available here. So I'm going to go Tyree Wilson, defensive end. Tyree Wilson's definitely risen up draft boards of late. We know what he can do setting the edge. We know what he can do in the run game. We know what he can do in the pass game. He's definitely dynamic and all of that stuff. I would put Jalen Carter here, but, with all the stuff that's kind of happened to him, it's tough for me to hold on to that Jalen Carter pick. I think he might fall more and more, but his size, 6'6", 275, versatility. I think he can do wonders for the Cardinals defense. And again, Gannon is a defensive guy. He might want to build that line right away. And I think Tyree Wilson is the safer of the two picks between him and Jalen Carter.
So I have to agree with you. The only argument that I have here that I didn't really hear you touch on a whole lot was that his size is out of this world for an edge.
Yeah.
Freaky size. And I think as much as I like Will Anderson as the top edge in this class, you can't teach size. You can't make somebody get bigger. And I think Tyree Wilson would just be an absolute slam dunk or home run. What should I say here? Touchdown pick for the Cardinals. I don't think I should switch sports metaphors there mid draft. But I really like it. I think it would be a good fit for them. Gannon really needs some star power on that defense, and I think Wilson could bring that very easily.
For sure. Next, the Colts at number 4. I have them taking Anthony Richardson. I'm all about fit here, and I've talked about what Steichen did with Jalen Hurts. I think he could do very similar things with AR-15. You got a running back. You got a decent offensive line. Yes, you don't have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith on the outside, but you can go get those guys in a draft. You can go get those guys with trades. Like, it's possible. Hopkins is not going to command a first-round pick. You could probably go get him for a third. There's options here to build around him. And I think Steichen with Anthony Richardson, what he can do with Jalen Hurts, now what he can do with AR-15, I think it's a match made in heaven. It's just I don't know if they have that veteran QB presence there yet, so that's something they might want. Like the Panthers, go ahead. They went and got Andy Dalton, and I think he sucks, but he is a veteran quarterback, and he's there to help. I don't know if the Colts have that since they got rid of Matt Ryan. So
no, and I thought they should have at least tried to restructure his deal, try to do something just to keep him on, just to be that mentor role. It's interesting you brought up Jalen Hurts because my first thought for the Colts at this point in the draft is take Bryce Young. You want to talk about somebody that's kind of super different from Jalen Hurts for kind of the best reasons. I think Bryce has a better arm than Jalen Hurts, but he doesn't have that elite, let me get around you with this like crazy speed and just make you pay by trucking through you. He doesn't have that. When he does run, it's typically to an extend to play. It's typically just to grab the first down. It's not a I know I'm a threat and I'm going to run over you. But I think this would be a really good fit for the Colts just because I'm going to say it. He has the same size as Kyler Murray. We complained about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray still went number 1 overall. I don't think size is really going to be that big of a deal to the Colts, especially when they are bleeding out for a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Bryce comes in and brings that Magic Man-esque, I can make plays from wherever. They've already got Jonathan Taylor. They've got a slew of, well, they've lost a lot of their receivers. Hopefully they'll address that in the draft. But I think they have a good enough offense that Bryce can just be a plug and play. And potentially because of how that division is, winnable with Bryce at the helm.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I think Bryce Young would be a good pick here. And the Colts, the interesting thing is the Colts might not get their pick, their guy. I mean, they're sitting at 4 here. I mean, they might love a guy and they might not be able to get him. So hopefully they are content with a few of these guys because their guy might not be there. I think the thing for them, they might have to trade up to number 3 to go get their guy because someone might trade up to number 3 behind them to go get a guy. Like that's just what happens in the NFL draft. It's crazy like that. So, the Colts need to be smart about this. If they want a guy, you're going to need to trade up and get him because their guy might not be there.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the Seahawks. Kyle, they have a lot of needs. Where did you feel led?
Yeah, I have them. I have the Seahawks here selecting Will Anderson out of Alabama. I love what Seattle did in free agency, getting Draymond Jones at D tackle. I think he can provide a lot of inside pressure. They went ahead and got Julian Love at safety. I love that. Devin Bush at linebacker. That's interesting. I don't love it, but in terms of overall depth, that's a good signing. But I think they need a true pass rusher after all these things, like a true outside edge that can scare you, that teams have to stay up all night to defend, to plan against. I think Will Anderson is that guy at defensive end. And I would have preferred Jalen Carter here again, but I don't know if the legal trouble. I think he might drop just a little bit. But Will Anderson is definitely a good consolation prize. I think provides a lot of juice to a Seattle defense like that.
I can't believe you called my boy a consolation prize. This is a sexy pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Will Anderson Jr., I've got nothing to add. It is clear-cut, one of those, you take the best thing on the board. Will Anderson is probably one of the best defensive players in this draft. Fits really well and kind of gives that defensive line that oomph that they've really needed that they haven't had. So I can't argue with you. We're both in agreement, which puts us on to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Detroit Lions here. I have them taking Nolan Smith, defensive end. Also love what the Lions did in free agency. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I hate that you left, but I get it. Cameron Sutton at corner provides a lot of depth and probably even a solid starter, maybe over Jeff Okudah. Emmanuel Mosley as well. They've done a lot in free agency there, but I think something they have not addressed is that like dynamic defensive end. I mean, I love Hutchinson. I think they like Josh Paschal last year. They restructured Okwara, but they need a defensive end, a guy that's just nasty and physical. And Nolan Smith, if there's anybody in this draft that fits Dan Campbell, I think it's Nolan Smith. I mean, look at his profile. He's a little undersized, but what he does best is getting in the backfield, stuffing the run. Like, that doesn't make sense for an undersized guy to be so good at stuffing the run. That tells me that he's all about it. Like, he's physical, he's nasty, he's a leader.
We made similar comments about Nakobe Dean last year, too. Undersized, but still had a way to get in there.
Right. And I think, like, that's a mantra, that's a mentality for these Georgia guys. And I don't know how high Nolan Smith is going to rise, but it could be here, honestly. There's not many guys at 240 that can run a 4.4, 4.38, whatever it was. There's not many guys that can do that. And they were already fast last year, I thought. But like getting Jameson Williams on offense healthy this year, maybe getting a Nolan Smith, like they're just going to be physical and fast. And the Lions team, I think they might be scary next year. honestly.
They're
So,
like this close.
yeah,
This
I
close.
think I'm ready to put them as the leaders of the NFC North. I think, especially if they get a guy like Nolan Smith here.
That's bold. I'm going to clip that later and make that our audio bite for this
Oh
episode.
no.
So I know they've signed people. I know they've brought people in. But one of the worst parts of the Lions every single year is that secondary. And you've got sexy guys at cornerback this year. You've got Joey Porter, you've got Devin Witherspoon, you've got Christian Gonzalez. And just for me and the flavor that I think the Lions need to address, if you want a guy that's similar to Jeff Okudah, but just a little bit better athletically, I think that's Christian Gonzalez. And I could see him coming off the board here early in that kind of a fit just because they need it. Like, even if you bring these guys in, you're still going to have times where you run four corners and you're going to need another guy. Even if he doesn't get the starting job right away, teach him, let him learn. Eventually he'll take over for some of these older guys, these older vets that are in there. And then suddenly you have a 5 to 7 year corner that's just going to lock down one side of the field for you. So I'm just not sold that the signings are going to be enough.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Their needs are dwindling. Like, they're starting to get players and stacks on stacks, and just starting to get a lot of good guys on their team. But Christian Gonzalez is similar to Jeffrey Okudah. But yeah, will they go best player available? Will they go need? That is always the conundrum of the NFL draft. So I like the pick. I think it would improve their secondary. But we'll see if they go need or best player available.
I'm going to tag this right now. This is really funny, and you'll see why later. This slide right here. Let's go ahead and make this one really easy, Kyle. What is the biggest need for the Raiders this offseason?
Oh, I think it's offensive line. But
True,
listen,
but
my guy right here. I have Will Levis going to the Raiders. I'll put this out there. Like, if Raiders fans ever listening or are listening to our podcast or on YouTube, whatever, I'll be clear. Like, I'm an honest guy. I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think their offseason has been absolutely whack so far. I don't like it at all. Like, Jacoby Myers, overpaying for him, meh. Getting Jimmy G, probably overpaying him. Now you could say, well, he did well with the 49ers, but yeah, mostly every other quarterback does well with him because that is a quarterback-friendly system. So maybe they got Jimmy G as this placeholder, as this guy that can help another young quarterback grow. But I don't know. I think I'd probably rather take Will Levis at starting day one than Jimmy Garoppolo. So I still think quarterback is a big need for them, as is offensive line. But will they go offensive line with a Skoronski, or will they like and fall in love with Will Levis at quarterback? I'm going with the latter, Will Levis to the Raiders.
I agree.
Oh, nice.
I have nothing else to add. Look, I don't like the Jimmy G signing. I think you're overpaying for a mediocre quarterback. He's a great backup. He is a consistently great backup. I just don't like him as the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. You have to drive and score to win this game. That is not Jimmy G. Do I necessarily think it's Will Levis? It remains to be seen, but give him a chance. See what he does.
Yeah. Next, we have the Falcons here, and I have them taking Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon. Casey Hayward is 33 years old as their other starting corner. I love how they got Jesse Bates in free agency. So let's keep building on that secondary. Getting Christian Gonzalez, who I think is the sexiest corner in this draft, probably has the most things attached to him in terms of his size, his playmaking ability, his tackling. Like, I think he's the most rounded corner in this draft. Defensive end is also a possibility here for sure. They need it, and I think that's where you're probably going, considering you told me to watch out for the Lions slide. But I do like AJ Terrell at corner. He did give up a few touchdowns last year, I think. So maybe just having two of those lockdown corners could really elevate your defense and help Grady Jarrett, help Troy Anderson, Arnold Ebiketie, like guys like that. David Onyemata, who they signed, and I love that signing. That can give them a little bit more time to get in the backfield. So I'm going Christian Gonzalez, corner to the Falcons.
If he was there, I would do it. Absolutely. I agree with your points that AJ Terrell is kind of on his own. But look, keep him close to home. He can't slide any further. They need pass rushing help. They have like no pass rushers. I mean, you got Grady Jarrett, but I don't really expect a D tackle to be the guy to get in there and get somebody all the time, unless your name is Aaron Donald. So I like him. I like him so much. I think he fits really well with the Falcons. Like you said, blistering speed, 4.38, 4.4. That's scary for an edge, especially if he has that knack, which we've seen at Georgia, of getting to the quarterback. So, when I was putting this together, I thought this was really funny. Anyways, let's go over to the Bears. What do we feel that is necessary if you're the Bears at this point?
Oh,
you're in a
my
weird
gosh.
spot.
Yeah, so much, honestly. Again, free agency is a big thing in this mock draft. This is our post free agency or mid free agency draft. Getting guys in free agency. I love what they did. They went out and got 2 linebackers. Love that. I still think offensive line is a big need. But where I'm going right here with the Bears is Jalen Carter. I don't think he's going to fall past the Bears. I mean, if you think about it, just from this Bears perspective here, this trade that they did, trading back to 9 and still getting Jalen Carter, who's probably the best overall player in this draft, that's nasty. I don't think defensive line is something that's very good right there. Again, love Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. Love that. I love the Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker combo. I like getting Nate Davis at guard for them. I still think that's a need. Offensive line, like I said, love DJ Moore. But defensive line is something that they're supposed to be known for, and I don't love their D-line. So if they can drop back to number 9, get Jalen Carter, I think that's solid. That's nasty. That's what you want.
I agree. Sorry. But yeah, no, seriously, I do think he's the best prospect in this class. I just think he's had so much happen to him, and it's affected him so badly that even honestly, Kyle, he could go past the Bears. I just think the Bears would be insane, loco in the head to let him go past them.
Yeah.
He could, but I don't think they will. I think they're smart enough to know that their guy that would have been at 1, they could get at 9 and still get with exactly what they wanted in this draft.
Yeah, and I don't think if Carter passes here, I don't think he's going to go past the Eagles. So let's move on to those Eagles who have lost quite a bit in free agency. I have them taking Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama. Listen, I've talked to you a number of times before about Brian Branch and how I am deeply in love with him as a player. I just, a lot of teams view him as nickel, and I get it, sure, whatever. I just think he can be a really good safety. Like, I think he can be a really good, strong safety, a guy that's a leader that can set the tone, that can make plays in the box. A great tackler, will not miss a tackler. Also a very good blitzer. Also ability to get his hands on some balls. Like he has some range. He's not the fastest guy, but he has some range. And you don't need to be 4.3 speed at strong safety. You don't. Okay, you change your name to Howie Roseman. So you probably won't like this pick if you're Howie Roseman. But I'm not gonna just throw out Brian Dawkins' name out there because that's such high praise. But I just think in terms of like being a leader at safety, you need a leader on that defense. You do. Who's your leader right now? TJ Edwards is gone. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the lip of your team is gone. The mouth of your team. It's like when Sauron got his head cut off in Lord of the Rings and his, stop talking. It's gone. It's no more talking for the Eagles. I like their defensive line. I like Nakobe Dean. He's still young, though, and he can be a leader. We've seen that. But getting a guy as a leader at the back end of your defense is so necessary, I think. And I think he could be that guy. And I don't know if you draft him at 10, but I think he is a for sure target for the Eagles on round 1.
I like it. I really do. I switched my name to Howie Roseman, as you very much pointed out, because I'm going to pick like Howie Roseman, and I'm going to take a defensive lineman because that's just what the Eagles do. I could have easily taken an offensive lineman and still would have been what the Eagles do. But Kalijah Cansey, let me just talk about this kid for a second. Please take this with a grain of salt. He is not Aaron Donald. However, a lot of his stuff lines up with Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Not saying the kid is going to be the same, but he's got a lot of those really nice flexible traits. And just in my brain, Howie Roseman has actually done some good things the past couple drafts to put the Eagles in a winning position.
For sure.
I know he gets hate. I know he's passed up on a bunch of receivers. Whatever. You guys have plenty of receivers now. Not a big deal. You guys have made up for it. You went to a Super Bowl last season. Let's get real on that defense. If you can stick Jordan Davis and Kalijah Cansey together, goodbye NFC East. It is over. You stick this kid at edge, stick him at D tackle next to Jordan Davis. It doesn't matter. You got the biggest dude on the field and probably one of the rangiest dudes on the field coming after you. You ain't going to make it, especially when the Commanders don't know who their quarterback is going to be. I mean, it's not going to be Brissett. If it's Brissett, I'm going to cry for Commanders fans. I really am. If it's the Cowboys, it's Mr. I like to throw interceptions to everybody, Dak Prescott. If it's the Giants, it's Mr. I'm overrated. I almost said David Longman. Oh my gosh, my brain is like melting for a second because I got really heated. But you know what I'm saying? Like nobody, Daniel Jones, is going to come anywhere close to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and that offense. And if you can do that kind of magic on the defense, it's over. Go ahead and win the division for a second year. Like that's just what's going to happen.
It's all about the pass rush with them. It's all about interior pass rush. Like we said, it's hard to find D tackles who can get up the field like this, who can play different techniques, who can slash in the backfield. Cansey can do that. Having him alongside Jordan Davis, very unique, very different body types, but I think it could work, especially if you're thinking, oh, maybe Jordan Davis can, hold up two guys and Cansey can go one-on-one and just do his thing. That could be a very dynamic duo. I'm in agreement there. I just think, safety is a need. They usually don't draft for need, but I want Brian Branch, so I'll
help you later. I promise. Let's go to the Tennessee Titans.
I have them selecting Jackson Smith and Jigba, receiver out of Ohio State. I think he is the best receiver in this draft. Yeah. I know he was hurt. I know he didn't play, but if you look at him, all his technique stuff, all his skills, his intangibles, what he did at the combine too, he's so crisp. He's such a good route runner, very good hands. Titans did go ahead and get Andre Dillard at tackle, so that kind of prompted me to not pick offensive lineman there, even though they probably still could use one, most likely a guard. But receiver, as we know, is horrible. I mean, Nick Westbrook and Kinney, Kyle Phillips, get out of here with that crap. Tight end, not much better. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is a very, very good slot receiver, but one of those guys that can elevate your team as a slot receiver, a la Cooper Kupp, a la Keenan Allen, or what have you. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Titans might not be the biggest, I don't know, like offensive defensive line are picks you want, right, with those high picks. But, I mean, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba overall is a very good receiver and could improve their receiving room day one.
So first of all, yes, you're right. They do need offensive line, and they do need a receiver. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second as to why I picked Peter Skoronski here. He's played guard and he's played tackle. Mm-hmm. I need a guard. You can slot the best guy in there, and he's pretty sure going to figure out how to play guard. That's pretty simple. Here's where I'm going to play devil's advocate. Okay, yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't play. That's not my problem. My problem is if you're the Tennessee Titans, has your organization shown that you really view receivers enough to go another draft and go the first round and pick another receiver? Yeah. You traded A.J. Brown. What did A.J. Brown do this last season? 1,000-yard receiving season, and then went to a Super Bowl. And Treylon Burks sat on the bench all season. Yeah. And you thought Treylon Burks was better than A.J. Brown. I just don't see them doing this again. I think they'll go free agency route. I think they'll pick up some rando like Nelson Aguilar or something that won't make sense. And then next year they'll say, oh, crap, that didn't work. Yeah, we should draft a receiver. I just don't see it in this draft where there's no clear cut. I am going to be a destructive menace for your team. Jackson Smith and Jigba is really good. I just don't. It's not there yet. He needs to get on the field. He needs to play for people to turn around and say, oh, yep, that was right. That was the right pick. So I did go Peter Skoronski here, even though I know they took Dillard. I still went Skoronski anyways because double dip. Why not? It's safe.
Yeah. Texans with the next pick. I have them taking Quentin Johnson, receiver out of TCU, early. I'm sure people are saying, "Oh, it's early." They did that last year too. They did it last year with Stingley
Kenyon Green.
and Kenyon Green as well. They definitely did. Like I think those guys are good players. Don't get me wrong, but they kind of snatched them a little bit earlier than all of us thought. So I think receiver will be a big need, especially with Bryce Young there. I mean, Robert Woods is not going to be a long-term answer. I don't know what's up with John Mechie. He's healing. Obviously, he's getting better. But I don't know like where he's going to be. That's obviously a very serious thing that he's dealing with. I don't know where he is in terms of getting back on the field, and obviously we all hope he gets healthy as soon as possible. Nico Collins, I don't think he's a long-term answer, but played well for the Texans. And Noah Brown, they just signed, but they need a deep threat. They need a speed threat. Brandon Cooks is gone. You just traded him away. Not a bad trade, whatever. You still need a deep threat. Quentin Johnson is that deep threat, but also at 6'3" or 6'4". So I think they'll reach a little bit early for Bryce Young. It's all about getting their quarterback weapons. They got Dalton Schultz. They got Noah Brown. They got Robert Woods. They got Devin Singletary. They got Mike Boone. They traded for Shaq Mason. It's all about the offense, baby. Like that's what they want to do. So I have Quentin Johnson for the Texans right here.
I agree, but a different receiver. Here's where I'm going to say what I actually think. So yeah, you took Anthony Richardson with your first pick. It's streaky for sure, but if he hits, he hits. Speaking of a streaky receiver, that if he hits, he hits. I think the Texans would be crazy enough to go get Jackson Smith and Jigba with limited tape, knowing what he did do the previous season, because that is the Jackson. That is the Jackson Smith and Jigba that we know, and that what he can do. And I think if you pair him with somebody that needs help and is going to rely on him a whole lot, both of them are going to go off. And I just see this as a really good pairing between Anthony Richardson and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, I like it. They need a receiver, and I think you can't go wrong with either guy. Let's see. Next, we have the Jets. I have them taking, who is that? Kalijah Kancey as the pick. Up in the air with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing still. I'm very confused as to what's going on. I made a little TikTok about it if you wanted to watch that. But anyway, where is what's happening? Where is it going? I don't know. They might get rid of this pick. They might not. But the Jets are still built in a certain way, and I think that's from the offensive and defensive lineup. I love Quinn Williams. Love him to death. He's a great player. They're going to extend him soon. But something to capitalize on while you extended a D tackle like this, probably for like a 60 or 100 million type of deal, because that's what you'll want. That's probably what he'll get, is to capitalize and get somebody next to him during those. So if you can have Kancey for 5 years and Quentin Williams for 6 years, dude, like you can't get much better than that. So I think that's really good. And Solomon Thomas is there, but he's not long-term and so a little bit undersized as a D tackle. So Kancey at D tackle here, I think makes a lot of sense, especially considering their secondary is pretty much good to go. The receivers obviously good to go, and they did some work on the offensive line as well. But offensive line, defensive line, I think they're going to go one of those two. I'm just having Kancey here instead.
I like it. I don't trust Mekhi Becton, and that's this whole pick. And I also don't trust Aaron Rodgers. That's also this whole pick. I don't care who your quarterback is. You can't keep him upright. You're not going to do anything. And Paris Johnson is, he's good. He's really good. If you can get him early, like you said, use that high round capital, grab an offensive or defensive lineman, and Paris Johnson fits the bill.
Yeah. Play guard, play tackle too. Very versatile, I think. I think he'll end up long-term as a tackle, but if he could play right away at guard, that can help him out quite a bit. So,
yeah.
And Dwayne Brown's also an old fart, so maybe he'll play left tackle right away. Patriots, I have them selecting Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois.
I like that.
We've talked about different flavors of quarterbacks. Here's different flavors of cornerbacks. Witherspoon is probably a 4.4 guy. He's tested like that. He didn't do it at the combine. He's actually not going to be there at his pro day. He's doing a little private kind of workout. But I think he is a Patriot type of corner. I think he's physical. He's nasty. He'll get in your face. He is long. He's a little bit he doesn't weigh as much as you want him to. However, he can make plays on the ball as well. And I know Patriots, they love corners, man. Like that's their MO. That's in their DNA is to get these types of corners. And I know they have a lot of needs for sure. Receiver being one of them, offensive line, probably defensive line, whatever. But corner is something that I think could really just get them over the hump on defense. I'm not the biggest believers in Jonathan Jones or Miles Bryant. Even Jabril Peppers at safety, like I think their secondary could be much improved. So Witherspoon is the pick for me here.
Hi, I'm Bill Belichick. Sorry, but I'm gonna pick like Bill here. And he always off the wall, not what you expect kind of player.
For sure.
The thing that doesn't scare me about the Patriots is their defensive line. Like it's decent, but it's not. Oh crap, we're going to contend with the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets scary, which all three teams are on the rise. So this is very much their division to lose. And the thing that you're asking, like, why would you say this is a Bill Belichick pick when a lot of people have Lucas Van Ness going early? Well, the dude didn't even start at Iowa. That's going to be a non-starter for so many teams that it's not even funny. Like if you're not on the field enough, why would you be on the field enough for an NFL team? Which is going to see his stock go. But for me, I see it. It's Bill Belichick. It has Bill Belichick written all over this kid that he's just going to take this guy. Everyone's going to say, he's toast. And then he goes off and has an incredible career. And Lucas Van Ness, I mean, he is good. He really is. But I just don't think people are going to like his tape and see that he has enough and he's going to follow exactly to Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think that could definitely help out their defensive line. Freaky kind of prospect. Next, we have the Packers, and I have them taking Dalton Kincaid, tight end, out of Utah. Definitely one of the best tight ends in this draft, if not the best one. He can win one-on-one in different ways. He's not the most, not the biggest guy in the world in terms of tight ends, but a guy that can probably line up in the slot too. Very good body control, very good hands. Packers need another threat at receiver. However, tight end's like the next best thing. Robert Tonyan went elsewhere. Mercedes Lewis isn't there. Again, quarterback, you need a tight end as your safety blanket. Dalton Kincaid, I think, is the perfect safety blanket for possibly Jordan Love. So I'm going Dalton Kincaid here to the Packers.
So am I, because it's kind of a match made in heaven. Listen, Green Bay fans, I know we have quite a few of you that watch. I know there's probably some things that you guys would rather have, especially if Aaron Rodgers is on the move. I don't know how you feel about Jordan Love. Sorry. Same sport, different players. But look, you don't have a whole lot of weapons for whoever steps in there if it is Love. Kincaid is a beautiful receiver. He is absolutely a stud, and I will go ahead and say it, Kyle. He is the best tight end in this draft, bar none. And I think he deserves to go to the Packers because he will become that next big tight end. He's not Robert Tonyan, who was always one of those like, late round kind of cool kind of kid. No, this is going to be a star. And I think the Packers are very much lacking in some star power on that offense besides Aaron Jones. So Kincaid would just be a plug and play and be a miracle for Love.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in agreement. Commanders here. I have them taking Peter Skoronski, tackle out of Northwestern. Listen, the Commanders have done quite a bit in free agency in terms of revamping their O-line. I don't think any of those moves are long-term answers. Andrew Wiley at tackle. Yes, he played for the Chiefs. He has a ring now. He did well in a Super Bowl, but before that, he was pretty bad. So I'm not banking on one great game and he's all of a sudden going to be a stud right tackle. Not banking on that quite yet. Nick Gates in there as well. But Andrew Norwell is their left guard currently. Sam Cosmi is at right guard. I think he's more of a tackle. But neither of them, I don't think, are long-term answers at guard. Skoronski could be. And listen, the Commanders need an offensive lineman that can just stay there for a while. I mean, name me the last guy besides Trent Williams that has been there on the Commanders' offensive line for that long. Same with the Giants. Same with the Giants too. Like they went ahead and got Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. Those guys will be there for a long time. Why? Because they needed someone to be there for a long time on the offensive line. They needed chemistry.
And they're just bullies, and so is Skoronski.
Yeah. And I mean, the Cowboys, they've had Tyron Smith forever. They've had Zach Martin forever. They had Travis Frederick forever. The Eagles had Jason Peters forever, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, now Jordan Mailata. Like, you need a long-term answer at the offensive line position. They need one. I'm tired with this bull crap. Oh, let's just pick a random tackle here and random guard here in free agency. Like, that's what the Bengals did, and it didn't work. So let's go ahead and get a long-term answer. Bengals went ahead, got Orlando Brown at tackle, long-term answer. Commanders go ahead and draft Peter Skoronski at tackle / guard, long-term answer. That's my pick.
Same answer, different position. Oh, I lied. I changed this. I forgot. Broderick Jones, tackle. Also, again, a guy that could be there for a long time. He's a little undersized, but I don't think that'll be a problem. He could always put on a little weight, but it's his blocking that is phenomenal, and a reason why he is going to go very early. Look, Commanders fans, or Redskins fans, whatever. Sorry, I know I'm going to get canceled for that. Here it is. But look, you remember the Red Hogs. Rebuild the Red Hogs. That is where you found success. Rebuild the Red Hogs, find a good quarterback, and you had success. Read that again, Commanders fans. Build an O-line. Build a quarterback. Success. You have done neither one of those things for several years. That is why you have sucked for several years. You heard it here first. Here's another possible soundbite from this episode.
They've got the weapons. They've got the weapons, right? Yeah. They have the sexy receivers. They have those sexy pass rushers, right? But, like, the meat and potatoes is still the offensive line and the quarterback position, which they have not done well at. So
they have not.
Yeah, need to get it.
So before we jump on, let's have a word from our sponsor. Fresh Cuts is our amazing sponsor who has been with us since 2020. Fresh Cuts is the local barbershop hangout in Marion, Indiana. If you're looking for a full-service barber with excellent cuts and a welcoming atmosphere, contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. Mondays are the best days to get in, although he has plenty of time slots available. And if you happen to miss us live, you'll be hearing us in the shop while you enjoy your fresh cut. Slide on by to Fresh Cuts to pick up some stylish footwear with Caleb's Fresh Kicks collection. From Nike to Jordans, he offers the best price for quality kicks. And if you don't find what you like, Caleb offers custom work for $250. Stop over to 1224 North Baldwin Ave in Marion to pick up yours today, or Caleb also ships all over the U.S. Message him for prices and sizes. Our other people we sponsor, Steve Wood Illustrations and Ronald Morell for Mayor. Check out their respective pages on Facebook. And our other friends at other podcasts, the Culture Corner podcast, 1,000 Wives of Weird, and Rules of the Frame. Check them out on their respective platforms listed below. Awesome. So let's jump right back on in with the Steelers. Kyle, where did you go with the Steelers?
Steelers, obvious choice if you know me, if you know my Penn State love here. Joey Porter here at corner for the Steelers. Patrick Peterson was a move in free agency. Like, it happened. I don't think anybody's thrilled about it, but it happened. Corner is still a definite need there, and this is not a reach at all. I think he is worthy of being a top 15, maybe even top 10 pick. I've seen a lot of mocks having him go top 10. So, yeah, Porter at corner here. I love what they did in their offensive line room in free agency, getting Isaac Samalo, Nate Herbig. So I'm kind of leaning off offensive line for right now, and I'm going corner, Joey Porter Jr.
That's okay. We both had the same thought. I have Devin Witherspoon on the other hand. I want the Joey Porter reunion, but I just think out of the two that are remaining, I think Witherspoon just has that X factor. Joey Porter does too, but like we said, it's just different flavors. And I feel like he would work really well with Minkah Fitzpatrick in that secondary.
For sure. Next pick, the Lions. I have them taking Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. Some would say he's the best tight end in this draft. He is pro-ready, good hands, great run blocker. I think he can win one-on-one, maybe not always down the field per se. He's not the most agile, not the fastest guy. But I think he's going to stick around for a long time. Now, I think the question is, yes, they got rid of TJ Hawkinson for a second-round pick. Do they want to go ahead and spend a first on a tight end? Maybe not, but I think Michael Mayer is a need at tight end. Also, I like their receivers. I like their running back room. Like, I think tight end is one of the missing pieces on that Lions offense, and I think this is a perfect selection here at this time.
I think one of the things that you had discussed with the first Lions pick is Hutchinson is great. That defense is getting there. He could use some help. And look, Brian Brisset is my pick here. Brisset had such a good combine that I think people are going to start taking a second look at him. He was one of my guys that I thought could fall all the way to the back half of the draft, but I just don't see it because of how well he performed. And look, he can get to the quarterback pretty well. He's had some injuries that have hampered him a little bit, but I don't think that's going to stop him from being an absolute locomotive for the Lions.
Yeah, I like that pick. Next, we have the Buccaneers, and I have them taking Paris Johnson Jr., tackle out of Ohio State. Baker Mayfield, what? At quarterback? Kyle Trask, what? No one cares? I don't know who their quarterback's going to be, but I do know that offensive line is a big need. Tristan Wirfs is probably the only good thing on the O-line right now. I mean, sorry, Ryan Jensen's very good, but he was injured last year. Besides that, I mean, they got rid of Donovan Smith at left tackle. They need a long-term answer there or at left guard. We like their receivers. We know their receivers. Cade Otton's not bad at tight end. Running backs could probably be improved a little bit. Devin White is back. Levante David is back. They got rid of some corners there. Antoine Winfield might be on the move. I get all that, but listen, no matter who your quarterback is, you still need a good group in front of them, and it's pretty bad. No one is Tom Brady, and Mayfield nor Kyle Trask will be able to get the ball off in 0.5 seconds. If they don't find someone open right away, if they don't have that quick release, which they don't, like, they're going to get hit. They're going to get killed. So you need an offensive line that can hold up a little bit. So Paris Johnson Jr. is my pick here.
I agree. I just had them going with the mammoth himself, Osiris Torrance. Like you said, left guard is an absolute need for them. I think he really excels in pass blocking and run blocking. He's just a little slow, I think, is his only downfall. But, I mean, when you're like 350-something pounds, I don't care if you're slow. You're not getting moved. So I like him. I think he's a really good player, a good athlete, smart kid. It would be a really good plug for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, next we have the Seahawks. I have them taking Osiris Torrance here, one pick after you. We went defensive line first pick. We're going to go offensive line next pick. I don't know where Torrance is going to wind up going, but I think he is rising slowly and slowly. I think he might sneak into that first round. I don't know where, but he's a mammoth. He's 6'5", 340. He can move well for that size. Performed very well against Jalen Carter when they played each other. I like their receivers. I like their running back. I like their tight ends. I like Geno Smith. I don't know if they're going to go quarterback, but offensive line is something they can still improve. But it is getting better. I remember when that Seattle offensive line was
trash.
Horse crap. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And they're slowly improving it. And I think they don't take that lightly anymore. So Torrance is my pick here.
We had the same thought. I had them going with Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, the offensive tackle. It's like you said, man, like I couldn't think of anything else that they really need besides, I mean, you could double dip on defense here and grab another defensive lineman, but I don't really think you need to. I think just keep improving that O-line. It's proven that, look, Russ was right. Russ needed an O-line because if Geno Smith is doing what Russ was doing with a better O-line, it tells you that the problem was not Russ. The problem was that O-line. And I think shoring up some picks there with your draft capital is absolutely important in the first round, which would put us to the Chargers. Kyle, where did you have the Chargers picking?
Chargers, I have them taking Zay Flowers, receiver out of Boston College. Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. I think receiver is still a need. I think someone more dynamic. Maybe I should have went Bijan Robinson here with the Eckler trade talks right now, but I love Zay Flowers here in this fit. More deep threats for Justin Herbert is always an A+. Kellen Moore coming over from Dallas. Still, I think it's a dumb move by Dallas getting rid of him. But now that he's on Chargers, he can do a lot with a little, and I think he's very innovative. So getting someone like Zay Flowers, I think is a nice pick. I think it's a sexy pick. You could probably put him in the backfield too. Just more athletic, dynamic guys, or Justin Herbert is a good way to go. So Zay Flowers is my pick here.
We were on the same wavelength. I had them taking Quentin Johnston here out of TCU. He's such a big-bodied guy. He reminds me of Keenan Allen. If Keenan Allen, this is his last season, he reminds me of Mike Williams. If Mike Williams is on the move, if Mike Williams is done after this, you're going to need that big-bodied guy to come in and just kind of absorb receptions, and that's what Mike Williams does so well. He's not exactly the biggest speed threat, but boy, oh boy, has he got a big old catch radius, and I think Quentin Johnston does too. But Quentin Johnston brings that speed to it, which is crazy because he was originally a slot receiver at 6'4", Kyle?
Yeah, 6'3", 6'4",
which is insane. I think he's a unicorn, and I think the Chargers are going to like that, and so is Kellen Moore. I agree with you.
Next, we have the Ravens. I have them selecting Deontay Banks, one of the freakiest corners in this draft, very physical, very tall, wide as well. Can do a little bit of everything. I think the Ravens love these freaky types of prospects. Marlon Humphrey, I love him at corner, but he's not getting any younger. I don't think Marcus Peters is there, but even if he is, he's also not getting any younger. I think corner is going to be a big need for them soon. It might be a little bit of a reach, but I think Deontay Banks is the type of corner that the Ravens want, a very physical corner. So I'm going Deontay Banks here for the Ravens.
I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. I think one of the only ways that you're going to convince Lamar to come back is to give him a wide receiver one. He does not have a wide receiver one. Mark Andrews does not count as a wide receiver one. Sorry, I know that's going to make people on Twitter angry. But listen, it's not Lamar's fault. It really is the front office. It is that I don't know if you guys have heard this. It is that staff and that training staff. It is their fault. They have not been doing the Ravens right for many years, as many people have seen. Injury. Go ahead and start doing right. Get us somebody fresh. Get somebody out there that's going to help Lamar right now. And I think Zay Flowers can absolutely come in and be that wide receiver one, speedy, deep field threat type.
All right, Vikings, I have them selecting Lucas Van Ness here, defensive end out of Iowa. Van Ness is an interesting prospect. I think he could probably play defensive end in a 3-4. Maybe he could play outside linebacker in a 4-3. Zadarius Smith, I think, wants out of the Vikings. Now they went ahead and signed Davenport to a 1-year deal. That's just 1 year. So maybe next year they don't have either of those guys. And Daniel Hunter's kind of iffy as well. So defensive end, defensive tackle, whatever you want to call Lucas Van Ness here. That's something big the Vikings need to figure out here. I love what they've done along the offensive line. But yeah, they're going to need to figure out long-term answers at defensive end, at D tackle. And Lucas Van Ness is a freaky freak. And I think it's not a reach to pick him here. So I'm going Lucas Van Ness to the Vikings.
Speaking of freaky freaks, out of Tomiwa Adebaware, the guy from Northwestern that blew up the combine. I think he goes in the back half of the first round. I think he goes to the Vikings. I think he becomes that next Danielle Hunter type for them. And I think he absolutely blows it up with the Vikings. Everybody is this is going to be that sneaky pick that nobody saw coming.
I like it. And you got that name right too. That's awesome.
I practiced.
That's awesome. Jaguars, I believe, the next pick here, and I have them taking Anton Harrison, tackle out of Oklahoma. Listen, they lost Jawan Taylor. He's gone. Jawan Taylor started for them last year, obviously. He signed a big deal with the Chiefs. I think Anton Harrison's a little similar to that. I think in terms of all the tackles here in round one, I think he probably has the most athleticism, I would say. He's definitely a pass protector. He needs to get stronger. He needs to build up a little bit more. But if you want a long-term answer at tackle for Trevor Lawrence, a guy that can just get rid of pass rushers, negate pass rushers, I think Anton Harrison will have the ability to do that down the line. So I like this pick here. Left tackle Anton Harrison to the Jaguars.
Had I had that on my board, I would have gone with a tackle. Almost put Steve Avila here out of TCU, but ultimately ended up going with Joey Porter Jr., the corner out of Penn State. Listen, he's good. He's very good. And I don't think the Jaguars did enough to improve their secondary, especially when the rest of your division is grabbing a quarterback or is about to put in a quarterback, Malik Willis. Like everyone's going to be passing heavily, often. You got to stop it. And I think that's where the Jaguars got tripped up sometimes was with their defense last year. Because, I mean, Trevor Lawrence put them in a whole lot of games that he should not have put them in. And occasionally the defense stepped up a little bit, but I just don't like their secondary. And I think Joey Porter Jr. could be a star there for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I like that pick. Corners, definitely a big need for them. Tyson Campbell might be their only for sure thing. So it's bad there. Next pick, we have the Giants. I have them taking Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC. Definitely one of the better receivers in this draft. A very good route runner, a true receiver, I would say. He's not the most physical. He might not be the most downfield guy. But listen, they went ahead and got Paris Campbell as their downfield threat. I think you need a guy who can just win one-on-one, who can get open right away or down the field a little bit. I think he is a better overall receiver than a Kadarius Toney when they drafted him, and I think he's obviously can get open a lot more than Kenny Golladay did. They need a true receiver who can just win, man. Just win a little bit, get some easy throws for Daniel Jones. That's a definite need. So I think Jordan Addison here to the Giants.
I agree. It was very perplexing for me to put him here for this simple reason. Last year is going to be the biggest asterisk on his draft stock of you went to a better offense, you went with a Heisman winning quarterback, and you disappeared in that offense. Why? You should have been the star. You should have won another Biletnikoff. You should have been the number one guy, and he just wasn't. And that concerns me just a little bit. But like you said, having Paris Campbell there to be that deep threat, he doesn't have to be that deep threat. He can be that reliable target that was severely missing for Daniel Jones over the past several seasons. And I think that's all he needs is reliability. And if nothing else, at least we know Jordan Addison is reliable. Is he necessarily star-studded? No, but he's reliable. And I think that's why I had Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, and Jackson Smith and Jigba ahead of him, not because he's a bad receiver, but just because I think he lacks that star power sometimes to take over games.
Yeah. Next, we have the Cowboys here. I have them taking Brian Brisset, D-tackle out of Clemson. And honestly, I just looked at what you had when I'm looking at my other slides, and I'm going to hate it. Brian Brisset, you talked about it before, but just an awesome story with him. Overcame so much. Still overcoming things, a lot of illnesses and injuries, but I think this is a great value pick for the Cowboys. They need a D-tackle who can possibly stuff the run. They have a lot of guys who can get in the backfield and very good at doing that, but they need a guy at D-tackle who can just stick in there and not be moved. That was one of their biggest problems on defense. Even though our defense was very good, it was a guy who can run stuff at D-tackle, a guy who can bat balls at the line of scrimmage is someone who you're kind of scared of on the inside of that team. So Brian Brisset to the Cowboys.
I was so ready for this pick because I knew it was going to put your panties in a twist. It's Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas to the Cowboys. I know you hate it. I know they've got Pollard. I am well aware of that. But one of the things that the Cowboys did really well was a 1-2 punch with Zeke and Pollard. They never committed to one or the other. It was always a 1-2 punch. And I think when you take the 2 out of the 1-2 punch, you suddenly ask Pollard to do things that Pollard has not been asked to do before. I think you missed some star power on that offense. Receivers a need, but you went and got Brandon Cooks. You're in talks to get OBJ. You're in talks to get Hopkins. You're in talks to receiver's not a need for you. Obviously, you have found other ways to get that need to get for Dak Prescott. But the thing that's going to be sorely lacking is if you rely on Tony Pollard to be an every down back, which he shouldn't be. He could be somewhere, but it's going to destroy him. And I think if you paired Bijan and Tony Pollard, please tell me a defense that could stop the both of them together. I think this is more of a sexy pick. We know that Jerry Jones does this. He likes sexy picks. He likes taking things from the Eagles. He likes taking things from people in front of him. And he's just going to go with that sexy pick just to make everybody mad. And that's Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, here we go. Bills next pick here. I have them taking Bijan Robinson. Even though I just got a notification on my phone that they went ahead and signed Damian Harris at running back. So maybe this pick won't make sense here. But the Bills love taking running backs. They've spent a lot of capital on running backs. I think they should go offensive line here. Maybe I should have put that, but it seems like they just don't want to take one for some reason, even though they desperately need one. Receiver could also be a good pick here as well, someone to pair with Stephon Diggs, or getting a long-term answer at safety, because those two guys aren't going to be there forever. But I just didn't want Bijan Robinson dropping out of the first round here, so I have the Bills taking Bijan.
Yep. I have Brian Branch going to the Bills for one of the reasons you mentioned with safety, but also you did mention he can play nickel, and I think they can be flexible with him and kind of throw him in that corner position and let him play a little bit until Poyer is gone, until that spot opens up for him to come back and play in it. But he's so flexible, and I think that's what I love the most about Brian Branch, is that he can play so many different things well. You can play a bunch of different things, but playing it well, that's what makes Micah Parsons really great, is that he can play a whole bunch of things very well. And Branch kind of gives me not to the same level of Micah Parsons, but just to the level of I can be flexible in different positions and do things for you. And I think the Bills could really use that in a team that's just left with questions every offseason about where are we lacking. And I think some of it you and I have talked about is in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next, we have the Bengals. I have the Bengals taking Antonio Johnson, safety out of Texas A&M. Jesse Bates went to the Falcons. Von Bell went to the Panthers. They did sign Nick Scott, Penn Stater, actually former running back at Penn State, then transferred to safety. Anyway, he can play there as safety for them, maybe strong safety, maybe even free safety a little bit. He definitely has the athleticism to do that, but safety is still a big need for them. I don't know what they think of Dax Hill. I loved Dax Hill last year. I was all about him. But I think he could also play corner a little bit too, and corner is still a need for them. So I think they definitely want to retool on that back end of that secondary. And Antonio Johnson is an athletic freak, but he's also a really hard hitter, a guy that can set the tone. So I think Antonio Johnson would be a good pick here.
Nice. I have Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland. Eli Apple is a garbage bag, and I really think he's just a placeholder at this point because he is just such a liability for them on defense. Like, yeah, occasionally, yes, he has good plays, but I shouldn't have to say occasionally for your starting corner to say that you're going to control that entire division. So I think just bringing somebody in to give him some competition, bringing somebody in to give him some help, bringing somebody in to eventually replace him works really well. And I also didn't want Deontay Banks to fall out of the first round. I like him. Yeah. I think he's going up, and I kind of like him with the Bengals.
Okay. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints. I have them taking Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. Alvin Kamara, I think, is soon going to be on the outs. And even if he's safe, even if he's not in jail or whatever, I still think running back is going to be something they're going to look at. And Jahmyr Gibbs is the perfect replacement for Alvin Kamara. He's basically like Alvin Kamara. Oh, also Alvin Kamara went to Alabama, then transferred to Tennessee. Jahmyr Gibbs went to Georgia Tech, transferred to Alabama, whatever. You know all that. But Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back, I think, can do so much for an offense. And if you can replace Alvin Kamara with an Alvin Kamara type of running back, that's awesome. I mean, we like Chris Olave, right? But we like that. We like their offensive line. I'm not totally sold on Derek Carr, but listen, he still needs weapons around him to succeed. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs would be a very good pick here as a replacement for Alvin Kamara.
So I went with Miles Murphy. Look, you lost Davenport, and I think that's going to hurt your defense a whole lot. Yeah, you're trying to make moves on your offense. I would love if Jahmyr Gibbs went there. I don't know if they'll take a running back in the first round, but Miles Murphy just makes a whole lot of sense here for me for the Saints. He is another one of those Clemson guys that just put in the absolute work and has been a stud. I don't think he lines up as well with all the other defensive ends that are going kind of early, but I still think he has a whole lot of potential. He is not Cleveland Farrell. That's the important part here. And I think that he could do insanely well with a defense that has been proven to be deadly every year. And that puts us with the.
What's up, man? How's it going? Love to hear from some new people here. Hope you're enjoying what you see. Love that you commented on it, buddy. Love it. Eagles here. I have the Eagles taking Miles Murphy, defensive end, out of Clemson. For the reasons that we said earlier, Eagles love offensive line, defensive line early. I took Brian Branch earlier. I don't think they're going to go outside of the first round without taking a D lineman. And Miles Murphy at one point was being talked about as a top 10 pick, right? Top 15 pick. And now I think him falling back this late, I don't think he's going to escape the first round. He might not have the highest ceiling, but I think he can step in right away, produce, and be a very good defensive end in that rotation.
So I told you I'd have to do it to him. If I didn't do Brian Branch early, I still want a safety to go to the Eagles. This is going to be really harsh. Probably the second best safety in the draft. This is all speculation at this point. But, dude, his combine was off the charts. He looked really, 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 really good. I think he's really a day two guy, but I always think a lot of those guys that go at the end of the first round are day two guys anyways. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and reach for him, reach for a Jair Brown for that matter, but go ahead and lock down the safety position for the Eagles because right now, I mean, who do you even have? I don't even know. Like legit, like
it's nothing. It's Reed Blankenship, the vanilla missile, who was an undrafted free agent last year. It's not much. Wait, I have a comment here. Israel Talk said, "Yes, sir, bro. Lions are going to be scary next year." I said this when Goff got traded here. We are now. They're going to have a great season. I am in total agreement. I am high on the Lions for sure. Vikings, I think, are a little bit in retool mode. Packers are kind of a dumpster fire with Aaron Rodgers. And the Bears still need a lot to compete. I love what the Lions did last year. They were so close to making the playoffs. But with these moves in the secondary, thanks for stealing Jonathan Gardner-Johnson, by the way, and these first-round picks, man. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think the Lions could be scary next year for sure. Our last pick here of the mock draft, the Kansas City Chiefs. I had them taking Mozzie Smith, D tackle out of Michigan. Remember when they took Dontari Poe many years ago? I think they're fully in love with these sexy defensive tackles. Chris Jones, I think maybe has 1 or 2 years left on his deal. So I'm not. He wants to be on the Chiefs for life, right? But like I don't know if that's going to be plausible, if that's going to be possible. He needs a lot of money, but even if he is there for the next 1 to 2 years, again, kind of like the Quentin Williams situation, capitalizing on that and getting someone next to him who can do something a little bit different. Monty Smith can eat space, but he can also get in the backfield. I think just improving that defensive line is something that the Chiefs love to do. They love offensive line. They love defensive line, much like the Eagles' philosophy. I think Monty Smith would be a good pick here.
And here's where I'm going to get a little splashy just because I'm an SEC guy and I feel like it. Jalen Hyatt, look, he was the Blitnikoff winner for an obvious reason. I think had Hendon Hooker not gotten hurt, he would have posted even better stats, which is wild. You lost Juju. I'm going to make a really controversial statement here. You didn't lose anything. But that doesn't mean that you don't still need weapons for Patrick Mahomes. When Kelsey is consistently your best option that you have, come on. Like, you need a number one wide receiver. You need a speed threat. And yes, you want a Super Bowl. I know people are going to say, well, they didn't really need that speed threat. Obviously, they didn't need Tyreek Hill to get there. Well, yes, because you have Patrick Mahomes. But even so, I still think Andy Reid understands the value of having that speed threat, having that deep guy. And I think Jalen Hyatt just kind of fits that bill. Thank you, sir. I will take that. Love that from you. Appreciate it. I know. I'm sorry, bro. I just can't get behind not giving him something. But yeah, that is me clicking the wrong button. There we go. That is the end of our draft. I will probably have up a graphic tomorrow that will show the picks that you may have missed if you weren't with us the whole time. Yes, he is. He is ridiculous. Okay, good. All right. Okay. I was like, oh, come on, man. But yeah, he is. He's built different. He is a different breed. But yeah,
I don't even know if he needs Jalen Hyatt, man. He could work with table scraps and probably get them to the Super Bowl. My gosh.
he just did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But we'll have that up. Thanks for watching with us, guys. Catch us soon for Mock Draft 3.0. We're going to wait for free agency to kind of settle down and for some things to happen before we jump in and finish up. But as always, thanks for joining us at the Jocks of All Trades podcast. I'm Brad.
I'm Kyle.
And have a good night, guys.